All right, 2009 Buick Enclave with a 6T70 trans. All right, and the code I was getting was P0, actually it's the P0717 input speed sensor circuit low. So the thing is with these 6T70s is everything is internal to the transmission. The computer, or the TECM as they call it, is internal. The speed sensor does come in from the outside, but it is plugged in internally, so there are no wires to check externally. So we get this car here from a wholesale account, driving it around, it's driving good. The code is there, so there is something going on. And driving around for a day or so, can't get this thing to act up, and then all of a sudden, I drive the car a couple of blocks, the light pops on, and the code returns. So we know something is going on. Not really sure what, because these aren't so easy to check, again, because everything is internal to the transmission. So the first thing that I want to do, regardless, is change the input speed sensor, right? This is the input speed sensor. So this thing comes in, you know, from the outside, it goes into the rear cover. And then you got to kind of snake it around to where the side cover is, which is where the valve body and TECM is. And then the wire, pull that through, and then it comes, loops around, and actually connects on top. So the first thing, and I also like to check it to see if there's any damage here. All right, so I really didn't see anything. So the first thing we do, we get the side cover down, we got some room. I put the sensor in, drive the car again, day or so, it's working. And then again, just like a short trip, I go 2 blocks to the local deli just to drive the car around, and I stop, get a cup of coffee, I put it in reverse, boom, light pops on, same code. So the only other issue that I'm thinking is there's got to be something wrong with the computer. But the car has about 45,000 miles on it. It's a 2009. You know, to do this thing and program it, the computer's like $600. You know, I'm not really willing to do that yet until I know for sure. So what I do when I get back is I go onto my ShopKeep program, or Mitchell On Demand, and I do a TSB search. And I actually found something on this particular code. And a common problem with these 6T70s is the 3.5 reverse wave steel breaks. And when that breaks, it normally takes the 3.5 reverse drum out, so you'll have no reverse, no third, no fifth. Extremely common. A large percentage of the ones we do here have that problem. And then I'm reading down, because that was under the title of the 717 code I'm getting. Then I'm reading down, and it says debris within the transmission can cause these codes independently to set of the others, and one was 716, 717, and there were a few other codes. But I thought that was interesting, because I honestly really didn't know that. Usually when these things go, they you know, there's a lot of damage done. So before we do a $600 computer on this thing, got to loosen a couple of the frame bolts, drop the transmission down, and I elected to pull the back cover off, because that is much more of a common problem. That is probably the most common problem with this 6T70, and it is saying that these codes can particularly set because of debris, which actually made sense. So we get the okay to do that, and probably most people would have sold them a unit, but thing with 40,000 miles on it, when it worked good. So I said, let me just check it out. I said, if anything, you know, if there is some damage, you know, we'll talk about it then, but let's just start with that. All right, so we get the cover down. I pull the cover off. I'm telling you, probably the whole gear train, everything comes out. So if you ever work on these in the car, just be careful, because a lot of stuff comes out, not just the back cover and the drum. And I got the drum onto the bench, and I'm looking at it. Here is the 3.5 reverse wave steel, and as you can see, it is broken. But it's still pretty much intact. And I'm wondering, you know, okay, so it's broken. And then my thought was maybe the drum is moving or something. So I order a new one. I have the cover and I have the drum on my bench. And to put this thing back, I don't want to really make a mess. So I turn the cover upside down, and then something hit the bench. And that something, I think, was the entire problem of what was causing this code. This is a piece that broke off. I'll get a little closer here, of the 3.5 reverse wave steel. And the only thing I can think of what was going on, because a lot of times you may have some damage here. You know, that's how you can tell if there's stuff going on inside the unit. Also, you know, if it's not working right, because again, this thing would lose third, fifth, and reverse gear. So I turn it upside down and I hear, you know, something hit the bench, and I says, oh, okay. I mean, I'm thinking this thing just broke and it split, but I still couldn't figure out how is this causing a code, you know, unless again the drum is moving and it's creating too much of an air gap. That was my thought at that point. And then I turn it upside down, boom, that hits the bench, and I said, okay, I think this is my problem. This obviously was probably getting floating around in there and maybe blocking the sensor from reading or something to that effect, causing the code to show up. So, you know, I put it, the sensor is still in there, is new. These aren't really that bad. I put the new wave steel, and I didn't want to take the sensor back out, because then you got to take the side cover back down again. So I left it in there, and the car has, you know, been driving good. We delivered it, and so far we haven't heard anything, so that definitely is the problem. So let me just get a little closer here. I'll show you a couple of these things. So I thought this was a good tip to share with you guys on this 6070, because again, you can't really check anything. The only thing you can check, if you have the side cover down with the key on, I was reading a flow chart. You got to check, I believe, for a certain voltage at one of the pins for the input speed sensor. But you know, the fact is that, you know, when it worked good, and the code appeared at some strange times, like when I was stopped and I was backing up to parallel park into a spot, is when the code set. But I think the light came on when I was actually stopped and I put the car into reverse. So I was setting it up, and I thought that was just kind of strange. But I feel this is a great tip to share with you guys. It also, you know, definitely could be the computer, but I wasn't willing to do that until I knew for sure. And when I started looking into this, and with the low mileage, you know, I just really wasn't sure which way to go until I read that TSB, and I decided to do that first, and it worked out good. All right, so I'll just give you a little close shot of these pieces and the steel. You know, this thing I believe has been updated, because of course, you know, it likes to break, and the speed sensor, this actually is still good. So all right, so let me just give you a quick shot of this stuff, and then we can finish up the video on this 6070. All right, so again, here is the speed sensor. All right, this comes in, you got to actually snake this thing around, and then this will come in through the cover and read actually the 3.5 reverse drum, because that's all the way on the bottom, and the shaft goes into the converter. All right, you got an O-ring on here, of course, and it's a little bit, you know, get it out is fairly simple, but to get it in, I try to push it in as far as I can. Then I took a scribe and I hooked it and pulled it through. So it is doable. Here is the 3.5 reverse steel, and you know, if I wouldn't have found this, if this thing would have busted up, then of course we would have had a lot more damage than we did. And here is the piece that caused all the problems that was floating around in there. And I actually found that, you know, by chance, because again, I didn't want to make a mess, and I turned the cover upside down, left it on a bench to let it drain, and the piece fell out. And I said, that's got to be it. That's got to be getting in the way, causing some interference there, reading the 3.5 reverse drum. So all is well. The car, the wholesale account probably is about, you know, a good 45 minutes or so away, and you know, no problems. Driving it around, driving it there, and that was probably about 2 days ago we delivered it, and so far everything's been good. All right, so again, 2009 Buick Enclave, 6T70, very low mileage car, 40 or 45,000 miles on it. We had the 717 code, input speed sensor, low reference, low circuit. I'm not even sure why it didn't come up with the typical P0717 input speed sensor circuit, but that's the code it had. And we found this wave steel broken and a piece of debris floating around in the transmission, causing that code to show up. All right, so I thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, and we will see you next one.